Here we go.
Welcome, everyone. We're just waiting about another minute or so as people are going to be joining us. So those who are joining us now, welcome. Happy Friday, everybody. We'll be starting in just about one more minute, just giving people time to enter in from the waiting room. Okay, well, welcome everyone to the COVID-19 National Real Estate Investor Association update. I'm Ryan Kuhlman, president of National REIA. We have some guests today. They're going to be speaking to you guys on a few different topics. We'll have Charles Tassel and Kevin Coughlin. They're going to be talking about some updates on the PPP programs, which I know a lot of people are very interested in. And also we have Tyler Johnston, sales manager of idiCORE. So they are a new partner with National REIA, and it's actually service and products that we've been using down here in South Florida for about a year now. Very exciting stuff. So it will be something of interest to you guys in real estate for skip tracing. And then after that presentation, we'll be getting to those important legislative updates. So make sure you guys stick around. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our Executive Director, Rebecca McLean.
Thanks so much, Ron. I just want to take a second to thank Home Depot, our broadcast sponsor. They provide special programs for investors through the National REIA program, which include 20% off paint, rebates for the purchases that you make inside the program, and other exclusive programs to National REIA, such as cabinets and appliances. So we appreciate their sponsorship. National REIA has been around since 1985. Our mission is to promote, protect, and educate to support the industry. We want to thank you so much for being on this call and for being a member of your local. It's important to be a member of a local REIA so that you can stay connected. If you aren't a member and you need to find a local REIA, you can find that on the National REIA website at nationalreia.org, and then just click here on Find a Local Group. It'll bring you to a map. You can select the group that is closest to you and then get connected. During this time, we've been doing COVID updates on a weekly and then bi-weekly basis. You can also find those updates as well as any other information in terms of possible templates for you to use in your business here on the COVID-19 page. Just want to let you know that we will be talking about the PPP program today, as well as some industry updates. None of us are attorneys, or at least we're not practicing law on this call, nor are we CPAs or practicing our accounting on this call. And during the industry update that we'll be doing today, talking about what's happening in the market, I'm going to make some predictions and throw some things out there, but I am not a realtor, nor am I giving you financial advice on where to invest. So please keep that in mind as we go forward. So I'm going to then stop and let Tyler take over for a moment to talk about the awesome resources that we have with IDI. Tyler, take it away.
Thank you, guys. Share this real quick with you. Rebecca, are you able to see my screen now?
We're able to see your screen, but the sound is coming through like a little bit robotic.
Better for you?
No, there's like an echo, something going on with the microphone or something.
We're good a little earlier, but I think you must have moved your mic.
Everything's good. What about now? Is everything better for you?
No, it's still got an echo to it, and there's something really weird going on with it. Are you on are you on a phone and a laptop, or just a laptop?
Just a laptop, you guys.
Wow. Yeah, for some reason it's a really bad echo.
Yeah, I'm logged in the same way from that we were on Wednesday for this call.
Tyler, if you're on a physical connection, can you check to see if maybe you've got a short in the wire?
I do our Wi-Fi here in the office.
Okay, let's do this. Let's have Tyler take a second to work on his technical issues, and then Charles, can you and Kevin talk about updates to the PPP while we're fixing that issue, please?
Sure. I'm going to kick it over to Kevin in just a second. I want to touch on a couple of things real quick. Just as a heads up, just a reminder, evictions and eviction courts are opening up across the country. Pay very close attention to what your court is allowing, from the time frames, even checking down ahead of time, following up with your attorney, making sure. The Bar Association will typically tell you in advance if there are specific rules, masking, distancing, what items can even be brought into the court. Those rules have changed as well. So pay attention to that. There's a number of states that are in process, a number of lawsuits across the country as well that have talked to the governors or overridden the governors. And so they're opening things up more. So that's a good thing. But please make sure you are aware of your loans. If they are FHA backed, if they are Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac backed, you cannot, until at least July 25th at this time, move forward with any type of late fees, evictions, set outs, even notices at this point. So just be careful with that. Make sure you know where your property is as far as financially backed, as if there's any federal subsidy. That includes Section 8 vouchers, housing choice vouchers. So be careful of those. You do not want to try to move forward and end up in being the poster child for somebody coming after you with a lawsuit. The feds will take that very seriously. So please make sure on that side of it. And a lot of courts are actually having affidavits, some sort of form to say, yes, I know that this property is not. If you want to move forward for non-payment, that you have an affidavit that says it is not federally backed in any way. So just make sure you know that and you're not signing that incorrectly. Now you're in for perjury or fraud or up for other charges. So be careful with that. Second, I want to mention with the protests going on, we actually were just made aware of some violence that is going on. If your building gets tagged, by tagged I mean graffiti sprayed onto it, it's a marking similar to what's going on, make sure you get that marking immediately removed or as quickly as possible. If you've got residents, just have them take a look around the building. Typically these are larger buildings, think 4 families, 8 families or larger, and they're being tagged for potential arson incidents. So yes, I'm saying that these are potential arson incidences hiding in a protest. So if your buildings are near a protest area, you might take an extra walkthrough just to make sure ahead of time that the building wasn't tagged by some group planning to do arson at a later date. So say that very seriously and want everybody to hear that clearly. So finally, let me mention this on our website at the Action Center under legislation on nationalrea.org is we have 2 action items. One is a voter voice push, and it's to encourage co-sponsors for the SFC bill, which is the Seller Finance Coalition bill. We want to push that, get some more sponsors on there, encourage your congressmen and senators to participate and join in. And then secondly is the other one is on the CARES 2 program and asking for rent assistance. As we spoke earlier, rent assistance is the first domino. If rent's not coming in, then we can't pay a lot of other bills, and we start getting into a structural fiscal catastrophe, and we're trying to avoid that. So with that, I want to turn it over to Kevin, because honestly, there's been a number of updates, and I want Kevin to give you guys a good update on what's going on with PPP. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi, Charles. Thanks. So to continue the saga of the ever-changing payroll protection program, as many of you know, first of all, let me just say if you haven't applied for one and you would still like to, there is money still available, and you have until June 30th to apply. For those of you who have applied, you're probably now in the phase of concentrating on how do you structure things so that you can get as much forgiveness as possible, preferably total forgiveness of the loan that you were given. And that has raised a number of practical issues over the last 2 weeks as people have gotten into that process, and that's necessitated some changes. So Congress passed Wednesday night a new bill that makes some changes that give a little more accommodation with regard to forgiveness on the PPP program. The president signed it this afternoon. Let me just quickly roll through those changes. First of all, the threshold previously that was required for you to use there was a 75% threshold. You had to use 75% of the loan at least for the restoration of your payroll expenses. And if you did that, then the loan would be forgiven. That has been lowered to 60%. So that means that 40% of the loan could be used for other business related expenses that are not payroll. They've also extended the period in which you can make all this happen. So if you are currently a PPP borrower, it was supposed to be an 8-week period in which all of this would work, and you'd have to have your employees reinstated and your payroll back to where it was by the end of last year. That is expanded now to 24 weeks. However, if you choose to, you can keep the 8-week period. You don't have to ride it out for 24 weeks. You can continue to go on the same schedule that they mapped out originally. If you are a new PPP borrower, you have that 24-week period. It will not extend, and it cannot extend past December 31st of this year. So again, the idea is to make it easier for the borrower to reach full or almost full forgiveness. And the reason for that is because some people are having difficulty getting their employees to come back. And so people were worried, well, if I can't get my employees to come back by June 30th, then am I going to be stuck with this loan that I have to now repay? And so they've made that accommodation. They've also given a little bit of leeway on that. So they did say at the beginning that if you make a good faith effort to your employees and to come back to work and they turn it down, and it's you can define what good faith is, but then there's an allowance. So they're going to take that into account and still forgive if you've made that good faith effort and it's been turned down. However, there's a new adjustment that's even better that's made this week that says that if you can't find any qualified employees, or you cannot restore your business operations to the level that they were on February 15th of this year, which is kind of when this whole thing started, then you're exempt from the forgiveness issue. And so they will take that into account and your loan will still be forgiven. And obviously you'll have to demonstrate that. I'm sure that they will have a form or some kind of attestation that they will make available for you to be able to do that. New borrowers, if you have yet to apply and you intend to, for the portion of the loan or any unforgiven part of the loan that is still owed, rather than having 2 years to pay that back, you'll have 5 years to pay that back. And if you are a current loan holder, you can have it extended up to 5 years if your lender and your borrower agree. And the interest rate still stays at 1%. So if you currently have a PPP loan and you think that you're not going to have it all forgiven and you'd like to stretch that out to 5 years, you can do that by talking to your SBA lender. Finally, anybody who took a PPP loan can delay your payroll taxes. That was explicitly prohibited under the original bill, and they've corrected that now. So I'm sure that the IRS will be issuing some written guidance shortly about how that exactly will work. But those are the changes that happened this week. They're fairly significant. They're all accommodating to the borrowers. and probably much needed.
I have a few questions that have come up. To clarify, if what you received was under 10K, it is considered a grant, not a loan. Is that correct?
Was that an was that an IDEA loan, or was that a PPP loan? So
it was an EIDL loan. I chimed in already. Sorry on that. Cut past you there, Kevin. It was an EIDL loan, so under 10 grand is therefore a grant, automatically transferred in. When you get a PPP, you will go through a process where you're actually signing documents that say loan, and it's very specific about the loan requirements on it and all that. Now, having said that, as Kevin just said, those loan requirements just changed. So isn't that convenient that the government can do that for us? So luckily it was in our favor, not against us.
Another question, how about a single member LLC with no payroll for the rental company owner? Can they, I guess the question is, can they apply?
Yes. Yes. And so you'd be taking into account your, obviously you pay yourself somehow, and that would be your payroll cost.
Correct.
I think.
But not, let me just make sure I clarify, not any independent contractors that you pay, because they are expected to go and get their own PPP loan if they wish.
Correct.
Or unemployment.
Okay, perfect. Anything else that we need to cover under the legislation?
That's predominantly it right now.
Oh, one other question. So for the places, we've not had the ability to evict in many locations.
Mm-hmm.
Is in any of this new legislation that's coming through, is there anything to help with uncollected rent during the time of no eviction, assuming, that we're not going to get that back?
So from Congress's perspective, between the additional unemployment funds and the stimulus checks, those were supposed to help cover those basic costs. That's what they were looking for. So ideally, there would be very few people not paying, so that we wouldn't receive our rent payments. Again, we're in the second tier of that, not the front tier of getting the funds, but that's really about it. Now, if you need capital and you need to build up some capital, going in and talking to the SBA about some sort of small business loan, and by SBA, I mean go talking to your banker who's an SBA approved lender, getting a capital loan so that you're covered in the shortfall. But there's not anything directly to property owners to cover anything else.
And then last question, what is the status on mortgage extensions past the 3 months they have already given?
So Kevin, do you want to touch on this at all? Because I know this is one that there's a big differentiating line between the private sector and the federal. On the federal side, they specifically say that those funds, that if you take a forbearance, for example, that forbearance, those funds are added on at the end of your loan. And so you'll have an additional 3 months on the end of your loan. In the private sector, very important difference, their idea of a forbearance is, no, you don't have to pay for 3 months, but on day 91, you got to pay all 3 months worth. Now, how you're supposed to do that when you didn't have the money all along, I don't know, but that's where the mortgage extensions have been at this point. So there's a big difference between the private sector and what the feds have required.
So I think the moral of that story is, if you're asking for forbearance from a private, a not governmental lender, that you need to make sure you very thoroughly read that forbearance agreement, and that you're not putting yourself in a bond that you don't realize that you're getting into, that you have that kind of balloon.
Yeah. So if there's lost rents, it's the same as these businesses that have been closed. Folks, there's gonna be a lot of hurting out there. You're gonna see people going under. If you want to invest in somebody's business to help them stay afloat, now might be a good time to think about that. But that's why I said getting some loans and getting some capital to survive might be very helpful, but there's not funds out there directly for that. The CARES 2 Act that I referenced, which is HEROES Act, is the $3 trillion that has passed the House. Again, we're still waiting to hear what the Senate's going to do. And over the next probably couple of weeks, we'll have some emails out to folks and just telling you from a local and an individual level to weigh in on things. But right now we're still waiting to see what the Senate's going to do.
So just to clarify, you were addressing the question about help for back rent. The person addresses that there was a tenant that hasn't paid since October. It is unfortunate that that landlord did not take the actions that we recommend, which is to immediately move to eviction. That should have been cleared long before this started, and therefore I think they're going to have a really hard time making any kind of plea after waiting that long. Most judges will say, if you've waited this long, you need to go back and reserve, I believe. In terms of, though, I'm going to say a quote unquote normal. So someone that was coming in from February, which would have been about the time that you would have had a missed payment heading into a March eviction. So if that were the case and you're going to end up having to evict, can you, as you do that eviction, file for lost rents in that eviction process?
So again, not giving legal advice, but if you're going for a second cause, go for a second cause. There are some states that it takes a while to get through the eviction process. Illinois, New Jersey, our friends in California all know these things. As compared to other places where you can get them out in 25 days or 20 days. Again, watch out that you don't spend more money than it's worth, because you can't get blood out of a stone. So there's nothing out there right now. Get ready to write it off on your taxes.
Truly unfortunate. Okay, Tyler, are we ready?
Can you hear me better now?
Absolutely.
So much better.
Perfect. Let me go back and try to share this. So apologize about that earlier, guys.
And Tyler, while
First
you're getting set up real quick, I'll just let everybody know. I know some of the people on the call Wednesday, but as the Broward and Miami-Dade Real Estate Investors Association, we have been working with IDI for over a year now. And what I just kind of want to relate to you guys to understand in the world of data and skip tracing, IDI is at the top of the food chain, meaning when we checked with other companies and other places for data before we met IDI, everybody said, yeah, this is where we get our data from. So we just decided to go straight to IDI, and they have been an incredible company to work with. And that's why, using them over the last year and a half and getting tremendous results from them, I highly endorse them. And that's why we wanted to do this partnership with National REIA and have this available for all of you guys. Anybody in real estate, needs good data, needs good skip tracing. So Tyler, I think we hear you loud and clear, and I think we're ready for you to rock and roll.
Perfect. Thank you, Ryan. So like Ryan said, we partnered with National REIA. We want to help you guys out. It's a great tool for any real estate investors out there. If anybody's looking to sign up, this is going to be our sign up page for any National REIA members, ididata.com/NREIA. We partnered with National REIA. So first off, we do offer a trial period for you guys. You're going to have 5 days or 50 free searches on the platform. It's completely complimentary. We want you guys to go on here and test this out. If you guys do want to move forward, we've also discounted our search plan. Ryan really, beat us up on this price. We're offering you guys 100 searches for $50 per month. So that's a 50% discount than what anybody else coming through the door would get. So it's a huge discount for you guys. Once again, ididata.com/NREIA. So jumping right into what we're actually offering for you guys, it's going to be our idiCORE platform. So once you guys get logged in, we do have an application process we're going to have to go through. We make sure that you guys do have an active business, whether it's an LLC or however you guys are incorporated. We do have, like I said, the credentialing process, so we will go through that. We just make sure everything's in good standings. That's a whole different side of the building. It's a quick, easy process, though. Jumping right into our product here, we've got different searches we can run. We can run searches on individuals. We can run searches on assets, searches on courts. There's a ton of different searches we have for you. Jumping right in, I'm going to pull up a search here, and this individual is going to be Sandra Gibson, and I've just got a street address for them. So when I run this search, here's how our page looks. Anything in blue is actually a hyperlink on our page. So first question I always get from people, what does this red D next to Sandra mean? That's going to tell you that Sandra Gibson's deceased. So if anybody out there focuses on probate, this is definitely a great tool for you. Moving right along on our page, as you can see, we put things like their current address, their email address, if you guys do any type of email marketing. We've got IP addresses on here. We'll show you if they filed for bankruptcy. You can see no bankruptcies here for Sandra, but there are some liens against Sandra. Once again, it's a hyperlink, so as I clicked on liens, all the information about the lien pops up down here for you. So delinquent tax lien from the county, we've got the date, I've got the property, all the information's displayed here on the page for you. Same thing goes with any type of judgments. If we open up the judgments, I've got a judgment amount, the interest rate number, all your court detail information's listed down here. Here's the plaintiff, Citibank listed for you. Moving right along, this is always a big one I tell people. It's going to be possible criminal infractions. It's a great tool to run if you're going out to a property to meet somebody. You definitely want to know, especially if you haven't met the individual before, it's a great tool to run to see if there's some type of criminal record. I'm going to skip over this one, and I'm actually going to pull up a full criminal search for you guys so you can see that in just a minute. Moving right along, though, here's going to be a full address history for you. And we've actually implemented this house icon here to show you if they're a previous owner or a current owner. Sandra Gibson being deceased, she's not going to be the current owner of this property anymore. If you want to pull up to see who owns this property now, I just click on the house. You can see here, it'll show you the last date the property was purchased, who the current owners are. We're going to get into full detail about the property, the total value, the land value. You can see right here, if it's been refinanced, everything's listed here. We get into full detail on the property information for you. Another neat feature is we've actually partnered up with Google. So if you run and you click the map button, it's going to pull up a Google map search of the property. So you just you want to double check to make sure this is the correct property. Here's your Google map search on that property. Moving right along here, one definitely important feature for everybody is going to be phone numbers. So the way we rank these phones, first number is the most likely number to get a hold of the individual, working your way down. We have residential, we have cell numbers. We're also going to tell you who the provider is right here. So this first number was a Bell South number. And like I said, if they're cell phones, they're going to be listed here with a C. We also have relatives and associates. So once again, Sandra Gibson being deceased, a great person to reach out to would probably be Bobby Gibson. So you can see here, R is for relative, Bobby Gibson, and the number here is going to be Bobby's age. So 31 years old, probably a great person to reach out to on this property. If you wanted to run the search, you can click on Bobby's name, hit the expanded person search, all of Bobby's information would be displayed for you. And then down here at the bottom, last two things, we've got email addresses as well as IP addresses where people logged in from. Going to run another search here for you guys. The search I'm going to run, I mentioned, was going to be the criminal search. So great search for you guys to run, just to verify the person you're meeting is who they say they are. So here's a search here on Terry Basil, located in Kansas. And if I scroll down here, here's the Terry Basil we're looking for. You can see I have a mugshot if the county displays this. So mugshots are based by county. If the county releases it, we will have it in our system. And you can see all the charges here. So we've got a theft charge, criminal damage to property, aggravated burglary, murder in the first degree. These little drop-down tabs will give you more information on the actual conviction date, the charge, all the information's listed. This is one of those people, definitely wouldn't recommend going to meet at a property, or if you're going to, maybe you want to bring somebody along with you just to stay safe. So this is a big one that a lot of our real estate investors use, is definitely going to be this criminal search. Moving right back along, I'm going to pull up another search just to show you guys what our bankruptcy reports look like. So here's a search here on Ronald Biggerstaff. And if I go ahead and type in his street address, same thing, just like normal page, everything populates here. Here you go, you can see some cell phones listed here for Ronald Biggerstaff. And you can see he has a bankruptcy report. So if I click on the bankruptcy, we're gonna tell you, excuse me, what chapter what chapter he filed for bankruptcy. All the information's listed. So you can see chapter 13, he actually filed twice. So chapter 13 and a chapter 7 bankruptcy. So these are great tools as well for you. I know you guys look for those hidden market properties. I know bankruptcy was a big one that you guys mentioned. So it's definitely a great tool for you guys to use. If we move right along here, up in the top right, there's a neat feature. It's going to be your history tab. This is actually going to show you guys your last 30 searches, or sorry, your last 300 searches or your last 30 days worth. Here's a search right here on John Smith. This search was ran just earlier today. If you want to pull the information back up, all you have to do is click and drag. The information pops up here on the screen for you. So as this is running, we're running a search here on John Smith, located in Wellington, Florida. You can see this one actually pulls 42 results because we didn't have it narrowed down. Instead of scrolling through all these pages looking for the correct person, we've implemented this green bar up top for you. So if you have any type of partial information on the individual, as I type, you can see the page narrows down. So we went from 42 results to this John Smith by typing in 830 Lake, and that's the address right here, 830 Lake Wellington Drive. One question I always get, if I run this expanded person search, 42 results populate, do I get charged for each of those? The answer is no. It's just going to be one search that you get charged for. It's the one expanded person search. Even though it populated the 42 results, we still count that in our system as one search. Last little feature, guys, I was going to show you is just going to be your coverage map. So if criminal was a big thing for you, when I go ahead and open up the criminal coverage here, click on what state you guys are located in. It's going to show you where we pull our criminal coverage. I'm located down here in Boca Raton, Florida. If I click on Florida, you can see here's all the counties that we pull from, all the courts. Any information on where we pull our criminal record is listed right here for you. So like I said, I showed you guys the URL link for you guys to go to. Everyone should be receiving this flyer that's going to be going out. This is my direct line here. Here's the URL link. Here's my email address as well. So if anybody has any questions, definitely reach out. Please use this URL link. It's going to get me your contact information so I can reach out to you personally. I'm then going to be sending over this application to you. It's a quick page-and-a-half application. As I mentioned, we do have a compliance process that we run through. We just want to verify, like I said, the business is in good standings. You guys do have an active business. But other than that, it's a very easy process to get up and running on the platform. Anybody have any questions on how the platform's set up or anything like that?
Tyler, we had a couple people late to the meeting. Can you show them again how to subscribe and go over the cost? And I'll answer the other questions. For this particular product, you don't want to use it or attempt to use it as a credit check or for tenant screening in its official capacity.
Correct. We are not FCRA. It's all listed down here at the bottom for you. So we're not an FCRA product. This is more going to be for a marketing type product for you guys. And for the question about the sign up page, it's going to be ididata.com/NREIA. And this is going to be the sign up page. Go ahead and fill out this information. I'll personally reach out to you guys and we'll get the free trial started. Once again, the free trial is 5 days or 50 free searches, whichever comes first for you. If you guys do want to move forward, we have a special pricing for REIA. It's 100 searches per month for $50. So that's a 50% discount than what any of our other customers come in and they're receiving.
Tyler, we have a question. I just need to get a little more clarification. We know that for the FCRA and it wouldn't be compliant for tenant checks and official background checks of that sort. but can be used. I mean, if you're trying to pre-screen someone before you meet them at the property, no guarantees. We certainly are not going to, guarantee that background check would be accurate, but certainly one way to kind of get a feel for who you might be meeting at the property or otherwise.
Correct. And also, people will use this platform too. If you guys are landlords, you get applications in for ID verification, just to make sure the information on the application does match up. If they tell you who a past landlord is, you can run the information through our system just to verify that. Does that person match up, or are they putting down a fake landlord, with maybe one of their friends' phone number, something like that. So it can be used for ID verification for that purpose.
Also, we have several members that may not have a lot of properties that turn over on a regular basis, and they are more landlord based than rehab. So they're not necessarily looking to buy properties, so they don't need it, necessarily for that kind of marketing. But they are landlords, and they would love to have the product for skip trace. And as you said, looking at past landlords to make sure that it is an accurate address, that truly is a rental property, and there truly is a landlord, and you can find them. Because of that, the question is, would we consider some sort of a la carte pricing for those less frequent users?
100%. This is just a discounted package we offer if people are going to do that type of volume. If you're going to use this on a one-off basis, your search starts at $1 per search. Anything you run is going to be $1 per search. There is no monthly minimum associated with that. Obviously, my suggestion, if you're going to run over 50 searches, definitely take advantage of the discounted plan we have. But if not, we can set it up at $1 per search. If you go a month where you guys don't use the platform, you will not receive an invoice from us.
And what if they are going to do a large base search? They're doing a foreclosure search. Can they then export that to a CSV file?
Correct. So we are a full service company. We do have API capabilities as well as our batch capabilities. So the CSV files, we can run those through the batch process. These are kind of one-off basis. So anybody that does have those files, we're more than happy to run those. We can run them as a test for you as well. We'll set you up with a free test through our batch process. But as you guys fill out this referral form, as we get into a deeper discussion, if you guys do any type of batch skip tracing, we'd be more than happy to run a test on that as well for you.
And you have APIs for those who are truly looking for large base search.
Correct. We do have full API capabilities as well.
Okay. Also, Charles, I'm going to ask you to answer a couple of the other questions here in the chat bar, especially the one on the HOA. There are ways to get your credit, to dispute what's on your credit, but I'm going to let that be handled in the chat bar if we could. Any other questions for IDI? Questions for Tyler before we let him go?
Hey guys, really quickly, I'll give you one example. Just this week, we had a fraudulent deed that was filed on a probate property that we are getting ready to purchase. So that has clouded the title. There's a trust that is mentioned on this deed that was recorded, and there's a name of a person that's on that trust. In order for us to do a quiet title action, our attorney has to contact all of those people with that name within the area that we are in. So we use the IDI platform, and I was actually able to contact every person that lived in Howard and Miami-Dade County with that name. Thank goodness it wasn't like John Smith, or actually down here, Jose Alvarez. So there wasn't a million of them, but I was able to contact all of those, get that information to our attorneys, and now we can file the quiet title action. So that saved us what he said would be a month process of putting it in the newspaper and publications and all this kind of different stuff. So it really helped us out on that as well.
Awesome. Once again, we put the URL link here to the side, and you can fill that out, and Tyler will follow up with you with any of the other questions you have, or to sign up for the special pricing, or to get started with the service. We're going to quickly move into a market overview. I will tell you, I've got looks like 22 minutes and then a few more than that slides. So we are going to run fast, kids. You will get these slides in your follow-up. You'll also have that in the replay. So I'm not going to stop to answer questions because there's no way we'll make it through if we do that. You can always email me after this or follow up with Lori or any of our presenters for their information. So let's start with good news, or what looks like it could end up being good news or indication of such. So we look at what happened with the Great Depression with the S&P, and I understand that S&P does not necessarily equate to the economy overall, and certainly not to real estate, but it does give us a good basis point to look at. So the Great Depression, you can see it had multiple down points and kept going down. In comparison, the Great Recession coming out of 08 took a much different path. We hit the bottom and then we just progressively went forward. We had a little bit of a downturn here, but small in comparison, and kept going. It looks like it is possible that we have hit our bottom and are up and may continue with a path that is more straightforward here. If that's true, we may be able to dodge, and we don't have a significant bottoming again, we may be able to dodge some of the bullets that were concerns in the economy. What does that mean for us? So we had our initial health crisis. The concern was a subsequent economic crisis. And then, how gradual is a gradual recovery? So let's talk about where we have been hit the hardest. So the counties on the front lines of a coronavirus recession, as estimated or as predicted by Realtor.com, not by me, but by Realtor.com, are, there's one in South Carolina. You've got Las Vegas, as we all know, has just been brutally hit because of the closing of the gaming institutions, as well as Atlantic City, kind of for the same reasons. It was already a little bit of a challenged area. Orange County, Florida, that includes Disney World, which is a huge part of the economy there that has been closed and looks like it may remain closed for a little bit. New Orleans took a huge hit in terms of the effect of Corona in that area. Honolulu tourism has bottomed out, big problem there. Connecticut here is having a problem, and a large fallout of that is from New York. I'm super surprised that New York City is not on this list, but is not appearing directly, just some of the fallout from that. You then have Monterey County in California. I'm also surprised not to see LA, as hard as they were hit, but not on the list. And then Savannah, Georgia. So those are all areas that Realtor.com says have been the hardest hit and will continue to see some pains because of the recession coming out of what they believe is coronavirus. So let's look back at where they had said, Realtor.com, and then Keeping Current Matters, which includes Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, MBA, CoreLogic, and AR results. So they put these together. Here is what they said. We're heading out of 2019, heading into 2020, and here's what we predict. One of the biggest things I want to point out is that they said the sales of new and existing homes will climb as more inventory comes onto the market. This now is going to be a big challenge. Inventory is going to be, maybe, in my opinion, humble as it is, I think this may end up being a bigger challenge in some ways than we had before, because some of what they were hoping for was some escalation in terms of building. And we've seen that put on hold. Even though housing was considered essential during the crisis, you've not seen as much building as we all thought might be able to continue. They saw interest rates remaining stable. You'll see that possibly has changed. They saw home prices appreciating, and then you can see home sales that everybody predicted. Of course, NAR always predicts above everybody else. I love that about them. They're always very positive about their industry. So they, in their own predictions, realtors said things like mortgage rates they thought would creep up a little bit. They thought the home average median price would creep up. Home sales would come down a little bit. home ownership rate would be at 64.6, and that housing starts would increase. So that was what they said coming out of 2019, heading into 2020. In late May, they then came out with these revisions. They believe that home price growth will flatten with a forecasted increase of 1.1%. They say that inventory will remain low, but the rate of decline steadies and the mix of homes for sale shifts towards greater availability of lower price homes. I will tell you why that's true in just a moment. They say mortgage rates remain low and may slide under 3% by the end of the year. A little stimulus can go a long way. Home sales are constrained by low inventory and diminished seller and buyer confidence as the effects of COVID linger in the labor market. And buyers seeking affordability and space drive interest into the suburbs. And so it boils down to this, that mortgage rates they think are going to come down to 2.9%. As they said, the median price appreciation will be up 1.1%. Existing home sales, they believe, will be down 15% for the year as a whole, with Q2 to be the worst. We've seen that at 25%. Single family housing starts, they believe, will be down by 11%. And then they still believe home ownership rate is going to hold. Now, John Burns believes people are going to be on the move. And I agree, but not necessarily with him on his very specifics. He is saying that home builders will capture pent-up demand from apartment dwellers. Now that I believe and I agree with him on, that home buyers are moving from the cities. Totally agree with that. I think you're going to see a flight to the burbs because of the concern of density with COVID. We know we aren't certain how that virus progresses. We've known over multiple different statements by the CDC that now they've turned around and contradicted, but we do know that in some way human contact or density does play a part in that. So home buyers moving to the burbs, I think, is going to happen. Families want more space. They've been pent up for what's going to feel like forever to them, and residents are heading to new jobs. Although one of the things that brings in is where I'm going to disagree with him on commercial real estate. Many of the calls that I've been on, especially with my fellow association executives, have shown that they're downsizing in office space as much as possible. And they're allowing their people to work from home and to find a way to work remotely. If they don't need to be in front of the public, they're just not going to be. So apartment renters are moving closer to their jobs and they may double up in larger units. I do think that you're going to, even though they may be looking for a lower absolute rent and may trade some space to do that, I think you're going to see some of your efficiencies in one bedrooms lose a little bit of their steam that you were seeing. So being in a hip and happening place with entertainment venues, bars and restaurants being not as open and not being as available, you're seeing some of that being less interesting to those who are buying or renting. And I think you're seeing larger units that will allow people to work remotely to become more interesting to them. So that's why I think that, single family rentals are going to become definitely the place to be. So for those of us that are in single family, I think we're in a great place. People that are in apartments who may not want to buy yet because they're concerned about the economy, I think are going to really want the ability to have some privacy, to be able to have some larger spaces to spread out, especially if they have a family. But they may be looking for some amenities that they had in the other communities. And those are things that we can talk about on later calls. The other thing that he mentions is that commercial real estate, especially in suburban mall areas, which we had seen kind of go by the wayside, redevelopment has been a little slow in that area. If all these people pour back into the burbs, then malls may end up being a thing again, even though we didn't expect that maybe to happen. One of the things we have to consider is that foreign buyers may be less inclined to buy. You can see how much of the purchases were made by China as far as foreign buyers. That could be good news for those of us who are looking to buy, because we're not going to have, I think, as much competition. In terms of people leaving their area and heading to the burbs, I think you see based on this slide, that for those who can leave their zip code, they are. So many of these here that are in the family category are staying in the same zip code. I think a large portion of that is because of schools. Schools and services for the kids, I think, are important to this age group, and so they're staying as close to the same area as possible. But the mature non-family, especially those that are concerned about their health, I think they're fleeing density, not just out of the zip code, but out of the state. So I think that is going to be a trend as long as COVID is a concern. You can see your state and how showings are going, so you can see what the market's looking like. There's a place called Showing Time. I'm showing you Ohio because that's close to us. And the 2019 weekly average is the blue line. The gold line is the 2020 weekly average. And although we did bottom out in March and April, you can see that other than this little dip here, we're heading back up again. So I think that's really good news. If you want to check that out for your own state, you can do so at this URL. So it's www.showingtime.com/impact-of-coronavirus. You can just click on your state and you'll get that chart that I just showed you. So for now, in March, we saw existing home sales with 3.4 months of inventory, which is actually down from March of 2019. We saw median sales prices go up. We saw a month-over-month drop in sales, but still up year-over-year. In pending home sales, we saw year-over-year come down, and you can see the representation regionally of what that looked like. And some of the hardest hit areas it's really showing up in these pending home sale purchases. That being said, you can see the purchase applications that are trending down into March, but then this happens. So it trends down into March, takes a nosedive in April, but you can see that things that go under contract in May are up. Days to offer are actually just a day different. And these new listings, February to March was down, March to April was down, but then May is back up. So I think there's some real positivity in the market there. You can also see year-over-year change in median prices of sold listings here in blue. So there has been a drop, but and you can see that the percentage of sales that sold below listing price is up. The change in median prices is hitting that 0 mark as of May. And I think the changes in May are going to end up being positive on that curve. We've not seen those results reported by CoreLogic yet. In 2020, what homeowners were looking for is more space, more natural light, a home gym, add a bathroom, updated kitchen, larger yard or patio. And I believe, even though this came out pre-COVID, it's way more of the same, and add with that an office space. So that more space is going to be turned into remote working space, in my opinion. You see your first-time buyers here, and they are more likely to be living in dense apartments right now, and they want out. So they're heading to purchase a home. You've also got the dinks, the double income, no kids, that don't have to begin a traditional starter home now. They're able to actually take on that more moderate priced home, which is great because these young families who are sick of being cooped up with all the family in one place are moving up, I think, to that low end luxury. All of that may mean more starter homes in the market, and more starter homes in the market, I think, means more opportunity for us, especially as rehabbers. And I think it means more sales, which can be very good. Here are the 10 areas for millennial buyers. You can see that secondary markets are getting their day in the sun as people leave the more dense, large cities for smaller cities and the burbs. The only one that I don't understand completely is Portland. They've had so much devastation by the virus as well, being so close to Seattle, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But you can see here Raleigh-Durham, Indianapolis, Des Moines, Omaha. Those are all smaller markets that are absolutely getting their chance to shine with what's been happening. There's a new construction slowdown. I think the inventory crisis that is being created could end up being a boon for price appreciation and for holding steady on price, but long-term might be a problem. There's going to be tighter mortgage lending. So there's little money flowing into mortgage-backed securities right now. You know, there's lots of money going into stimulus and there's only so much available, although we could just keep those printing presses printing, but that's another story completely. Some portfolio and hard money lenders have suspended new loan originations entirely. That being said, there's a lot of hard money lenders where there's no other place to have their money, still think that real estate's a great place to be and are lending. So don't assume just because media is telling us there's no money available that it's not out there. Just use your resources at your REIA. It's going to be more important now than ever. There are people still lending. That being said, conventional lenders are starting to tighten their guidelines. We're looking at higher credit requirements and loans to buyers with scores under 650 are basically all but suspended right now. That may change, but everybody's a little bit concerned coming out of this. There's higher debt to income requirements, higher cash reserve requirements, especially if you're buying a rental property. This seems to be what lenders are looking at, that they want to know that you've got some cushions in there because of all of the moratoriums on evictions. And you are seeing some higher down payments as well. Now, on the rental side, on a really good note, as of May 27th, the NMHC rent tracker found that 93.3 renters are paying their rent. So we were all very, very concerned coming out of April. We saw stimulus checks in April thinking that May actually decline. Not so much. So far, so good. I don't know what happens when they turn the faucet off with those payments, but so far so good for now. We also have seen that 21.2% of property owners have given some sort of rental assistance, whether that's a late fee waiver or they're working with their residents with payment plans, but some portion of them are 21.2% are working with their residents. Right now, the things to keep an eye on in terms of landlord impact is our eviction moratorium. We're working on that. The national one does end on July 25th, so through the 24th. You'll see those, as Charles was talking about, any properties with government-backed mortgages. You've also seen, excuse me, different courts really drag their feet, even though they were allowed to be open on other kinds of evictions. They're not necessarily being willing to do that. There may be some high rent defaults. You really need to work with your lenders to try to work on your own commitments for your mortgages. Also, we are seeing some vacation rental demand collapse. However, I am not totally in agreement with this because the very first vacation I will take will not be to a hotel. It will be to an Airbnb because of my ability to social distance and control that environment. There can only have been a limited number of people at the Airbnb. There's certainly a much larger degree at a hotel. So I think there are other people that feel the same way I do. That being said, some of the people who were cutting it super close as Airbnb owners, they had over leveraged, they have overestimated, they have it built into their budget, the kind of vacancy that has been occurring. Those people may be willing to sell and may be in a distressed position. So there may be a great opportunity to buy from those Airbnb owners. So you can keep an eye out for that. Speaking of mortgages, 17.2% of the respondents to the NAA IRM survey said that they have contacted their mortgage holder about forbearance, and 90% of them that actually had a conversation with that lender were able to get full or partial mortgage forbearance. Now, that being said, Charles warned you about looking at what the different kinds of forbearance are, but still, those are great numbers in terms of if you ask, you need to get ahead of the pack, because even though payments are still coming in, rents are still coming in, things are good now, and you can show that, now is the time to ask if you haven't already. Here is a projected market recovery map, also by John Burns. I am going to respectfully disagree with some of this. Now take it as you will. You'll get these slides. You can go through them and determine what you think. He shows the boom markets in green. I think, you know, these cities are great, but I still think they're a little speculative. They're still big cities. Now, Phoenix, I love Phoenix. It is the, you know, biggest little city, or the smallest big city you'll ever see because of the way the burbs are, the way the downtown is. So I think it really has that feel. And Salt Lake certainly has that, the ability to spread out. Austin, Tampa, not as much, but he believes they are a really great place for patient investors, or for the boom markets, because they've got governments that are truly pro-growth. They were already heading in a great direction, and they think that they're going to make a really strong and quick turnaround. So he also says those in the light blue are the new boom towns. I would agree to most. The two in the Northwest really concern me, though. Several reasons. One, they had some of the biggest challenges with COVID. They have been closed longer, and I think will remain closed longer in many of the services and things that they have available. And three, their legislation for rental owners and even for some other homeowner kinds of aspects are just onerous. It's unbelievable, some of the things that are coming out of those two cities. So to call them a boomtown, to me, just feels very uncomfortable. But do your research and take a look. He shows those in dark blue as less competitions and still on his buy list. I think for me, they would be a long-term hold play, because I think they're coming back. I think they're going to get a lot of activity. I think things are going to turn around for them, but I think that may be a little long-term. I don't know how soon you can open the doors in Vegas and hope that everybody floods back. I know that on the association business, which is what a lot of their convention business is, that's going to be a long way off before people consider going back. So, you know, just carefully consider this, but it's here for what it's worth. Also, and so that wraps up for me for today. Feel free to take a look at those slides as you get them. You know, have a discussion with those in your group, especially if you're buying out of state and want to look at some other possibilities. And let us know if there's other information you would like for us to look at for our next call. We will be having an actual specialist, not just an amateur like me, to give you information on our next call. CB Richard Ellis will be online for a presentation on our call on the 19th. But that's it for us today. Ryan, I'm going to ask you to come back and close us out, if you will. Or I can. So we will be going from our bi-weekly calls to a monthly call after our next one. So we'll, like I said, we've got CBRE coming on June 19th. More updates to follow.
Way back.
Okay.
There we are. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, I cut out on audio and video and everything. So, well, we appreciate everybody joining the call today. I think I heard at the end, were you letting them know the call after June 17th?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Well, thank you to all of our presenters, and we will see you guys on June 17th. Everybody be safe and have a great weekend.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.